In some bombshell news, the U.S. economy not only added an anemic 73,000 jobs in the month of July, which would, unto itself, be one of the worst performing job growth months in the last decade, but the previous 2 months were also revised down by a total of 258,000 jobs, bringing May down to just 19,000 total jobs added, and June down to just 14,000 total jobs added. It is the worst 3-month job growth period since the pandemic, when Donald Trump himself presided over the loss of over 20,000 jobs, and prior to that, you'd have to go back to 2010 for a similarly bad performance. And frankly, there was no getting around how bad this number was, to the point where even the right had to contend with the reality of the situation. And look, sure, sex might be nice, but have you ever watched Maria Bartiromo learn in real time that her God King is presiding over some of the weakest job numbers in the last 20 years?
73,000 jobs. 73,000 jobs created in the month of July. Number just coming out.
And that's total.
4.2% is the unemployment rate, right in line with expectations. Here are the numbers. For the month of July, jobs came in at 73,000. That was lower than the expectation, which called for 110,000 jobs. The unemployment rate right in step with expectations at 4.2%.
Okay, yes, that was brutal, but it's a fluke, a one-off. Surely Fox's Brian Kilmeade can squeeze out a better spin here, right?
Marcus, first off, your take on those numbers.
Well, I think I'm a little concerned. If you look at the revisions that happened in the last jobs report, that number came crashing down. So is 73,000 really 7,000?
No, that doesn't seem better. Well, surely Trump's former economic advisor, Stephen Moore, will have some way to spin this.
I think the main reason we saw weakness in those numbers in March, April, and May was because of the trade turmoil. I talked to small businesses all over the country. A lot of their factories came to a standstill. They didn't know if they could get their parts in. They didn't know what was going on. You know, it was threats of 50% tariffs and so on. There was a lot of turmoil.
Not only are they acknowledging how bad the jobs report is, but you've got a clear admission that the disappointing numbers are the direct result of Trump's tariffs and trade war. Which is bad news for Trump because the rule is that Trump gets all the credit but never the blame. So this is especially bizarre territory that we're in right now. I'm sorry, but is there no loyal foot soldier to dear leader Donald Trump who's willing to give the base less of what it needs to hear and more of what it wants to hear?
The month of July, unemployment rate ticks up 0.1 of 1 percentage point to 4.2, 73,000 jobs created. Unemployment rate is expected, jobs a little bit below what Wall Street expected at 110,000, but I would say mostly in line with expectations.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, good.
So there we go.
Good news all around.
All right, well, we'll have more on that throughout the day, and remember, you can always go to Newsmax.com for more breaking news. Now, let's get back to the newly declassified documents and more proof of what President Trump has always said, what many conservatives always knew: Russia, 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 an election scheme of the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Wow, good news all around. And now, back to our regularly scheduled programming in the year of our Lord 2025, Hillary's emails. But here's what I think is the worst part of today's developments, aside, of course, from the devastating and incriminating news about Hillary Clinton's emails. It's that 26,000 total manufacturing jobs were lost in May and June. Remember, the whole point of this trade war that Trump is engaged in was that Donald was going to reshore those lost jobs. Remember this proclamation from Trump from way back in March? President Trump is remaking America into a manufacturing superpower? Or this one? President Trump is putting American workers first and bringing back American manufacturing? Or how about Trump's trade representative, Jamieson Greer?
The president's goal here is to reduce the trade deficit and to reshore manufacturing and to really use tariffs as a tool of trade policy and economic policy like it's meant to be used.
Or how about Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent?
President Trump is remaking the U.S. into a manufacturing economy.
And even Donald J. Trump himself.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country, and you see it happening already. More production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices for consumers. This will be indeed the golden age of America.
Well, here's what that golden age looks like. See where the bars shrink all the way down off to the right? The most anemic job growth as far as the eye can see? Yeah, that's where we're at right now. Are you soaking in all the golden ageness? Granted, it's not all downside. Let's not forget that while Americans are losing jobs, the economy is slowing, that inflation is rising, that at least Donald Trump is focused on what truly matters.
Get to questions, I do have one other announcement from the White House and from the President. We are proud to announce that the construction of the new White House ballroom will begin. For 150 years, presidents, administrations, and White House staff have longed for a large event space on the White House complex that can hold substantially more guests than currently allowed. President Trump has expressed his commitment to solving this problem on behalf of future administrations and the American people.
So while the economy might be in pretty bad shape, at least Trump is getting his ballroom. So when things start to feel pretty grim, just remember that for Donald Trump, things are going to get a little more opulent. Of course, with all of that said, at least Trump predicted all of this would happen when he tweeted during the campaign, "If Kamala wins, you are 3 days away from the start of a 1929-style economic depression. If I win, you are 3 days away from the best jobs, the biggest paychecks, and the brightest economic future the world has ever seen." Okay, so maybe not an exact prediction, more like a prediction where the opposite of what is predicted is what actually happens. And yet, this is what Trump does. He promises the world to his supporters with zero intention of ever following through. It is his entire MO. He doesn't actually care about any of the things he tells his supporters are going to happen. That is how he lures people in. In his first term, he promised an infrastructure law that never materialized, a healthcare plan that was cheaper and more comprehensive that never materialized, a middle-class tax cut that never materialized, a jobs boom that never materialized, a manufacturing renaissance that never materialized. But he did make time for a tax cut for himself, and now he's doing the exact same thing, promising reduced costs and cheaper groceries and lower rent and justice when it comes to Epstein's victims and accountability for his criminal associates, but he's not delivering on any of those things. The only thing he's actually done is give himself a tax cut yet again. He will sacrifice the entire economy, all of our jobs, to get that cash for himself. The guy does not care about you, and he never has. He only cares about himself, his donors, his family, and his wallet. And he doesn't care what he has to destroy to make sure that he and his bottom line are taken care of. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.